What's going on, guys? This is Logan with West Desert Wheeler. I want to briefly go over the changes I've made to my Axial Gilamon, which include the first look at Axial's upgrade parts for the Axial Gilamon truck, specific to this truck. So right here up in the front, we're going to talk about one of the parts that I think will be most popular for people to upgrade their trucks with, and that's going to be the brass knuckles and the brass portal covers. This is going to give you a better forward weight bias, so once your front tires get up and over a ledge, it's going to help pull the rest of the car up with added traction in the front. A forward weight bias rock crawler is a good thing. So these guys are really chunky too. The portal covers and the boxes here weigh 190 grams each side, so a ton of brass added to this. The portal box itself, if you've messed with an STX 10.3 portal box or a Capper portal box, you'll be very familiar with the design. It's just enlarged for this car. Another very popular accessory that I'm super excited about, Axial has offered a front axle kit that comes fully assembled in the bag. Now, to my knowledge, you will have to open up your portal boxes and your diff and make sure that they are greased from that bag. From what I've heard, as far as up to this point, is that they do not come greased, so you will need to do that. And then also, the ASD function that you found in the factory rear axle of this car is not installed in the front axle. So what you can do is you can take apart your rear axle, which I did, open up this new front axle, which is your rear steer axle, and then install the ASD. Now, there's a lot of machined metal parts in there that you're gonna have to swap around. All the parts in there seem really high quality and heavy duty, but it's a little bit fiddly. There's a lot going on in there. It's a really cool system in the function that it does, but it's just a pretty wild system. It's not gonna really be like anything you've seen before, and I'm hoping that we can get an install video at some point on how to do that. I've got new servos in the truck as well from Reefs RC, thank you very much. Right here we've got the Reefs 888 direct power servo rated up to with 888 ounce-inches of torque. And in the front, we got the Big Boss. Well, I guess it was the Big Boss. Now they got the Smart 1400, but this guy's the Smart 1100. This one is BEC powered, which I put an external BEC in this car to give this guy the full kill 1100 ounce-inches of torque. And then for the motor and ESC in this car, I did swap that out as well. I did a Holmes Crawlmaster V3 ESC. Might not last too long in this car. We'll find out how well it gets along with this big tire rig here. And then for the motor, we did a Holmes Hobby Revolver Classic with 1950 kV. This is the biggest revolver Holmes offers. Essentially, tons of torque, sensorless. This thing should have plenty of torque to turn these 2.2s. I've got other cars I'm running 2.2s on with this combo, and it works out just fine. Another small detail that we can't really show, but are in the car now, I did add 10% underdrive portal gears to this car. So it came with 30% in the transmission, and now it's got 10% underdrive in the portal gears. There's also ring and pinions with underdrive available as well. I think they have an overdrive ring and pinion, maybe some overdrive portal gears as well. They got a lot of option parts. Axial did a good job with getting new option parts for this guy. Also, when you go to rear steer, you're gonna have to change out your link set in the back so that it gives it the proper upper link length so that your pinion angle ends up correct, because the front axle and the rear axle link positioning is different. So you will need a link kit to go along with your front axle kit if you plan to rear steer this guy. So that pretty well wraps up the changes I've made. I have not changed my wheels and tires. I do have my inserts as well as my 2.2s. These are SL3D squid inserts, and these are for Proline Super Swamper TSLs that I do plan on installing on this car. Unfortunately, the tires aren't here in time to make this video, so this will be an interesting twist. We will go out and test the Axial upgrades for this car on the factory wheels and tires, and in the future we will swap different tires onto it and retest it and see how it does with the new wheels and tires as well, and see how much of a difference we really see. As far as that goes, that should pretty well cover the changes to the truck. I added the aluminum door panels on here. This was a prototype set sent over to one of the Axial product developers. So these are anodized black. These are really thin aluminum and will catch dents and scratches. So are the actual production parts, but those don't come in black. They will just be a raw aluminum, and it's got a hood, a roof panel, and the door panels. I only got the door panels, but I'm pretty happy about it. I like the black side panel on the side of this guy. Let's get out to the rocks and see how this thing does. All right, guys, here we are. We are starting things out at Mousetrap. I've been curious how it will handle the entrance to Mousetrap. This is a much wider car, and there's a very narrow line through here where the car will actually stick to the rocks. Now, compared to my first run video I had with the Gilamon, the rocks have dried out a significant amount. So hopefully That gives us added traction even if we hadn't made any changes. Our front right tire is floating in the air right now. Hoping these tires stick through here. Got that smooth low end brushless control now. Okay, let's try and keep our rear tire above this little ledge. This is where things are the most sideways they're gonna get. Wow, it actually made that look pretty easy. Super wide car, helps it become really stable, as well as, you know, 1.5 pounds of brass in the front. Very, very nice. That looked really good, nice and controlled as well. Excuse me, ma'am, I'm trying to film here. I don't need your panting in my ear. Of course, we got our friend Sydney out here with us, my trail dog. Here we are moving on to the next major obstacle, mousetrap. The sand is still a little bit wet in the bottom of this. So here we go. This is a very steep V-crack. And with the advantage of rear steer, this should go pretty smooth and easy. As long as I'm paying more attention to driving than filming. I did add 10% underdrive to this car, which is visibly noticeable. You can really see those fronts pulling the rears around. Is it necessary? I don't know. I just wanted to try it out and see how it went. Super smooth, clean climb there. But when I first started out today, I was having a crazy clicking sound coming from the car. And I was like, uh-oh, this is gonna be a long video of a bunch of people complaining about the clicking in this thing. And what it was I had torn apart the car and worked on it. The rear drive shaft, well, steered the wrong way on that one. I had taken apart the rear drive shaft, and typically you just phase the drive shaft when you put it back together and it's good to go. It's a multi-position phase. Essentially you can put it one of two ways. Apparently on the Gilamon, I called and talked to my buddy at Axial real quick, and the Gilamon has a dot on the drive shaft, and it will show you the one way that the drive shaft goes together, because the drive shaft is keyed. There are 2 molded in plastic dots on the drive shaft. Information that I had no idea about, so I'm helping share it here. I'm gonna put in a picture here. Those are the 2 molded plastic dots that must be aligned with each other. If you don't align them, it's a very snug fit on your drive shaft, and it doesn't allow it to slip as your suspension moves around. And so it'll bind up your suspension and make a horrible clicking noise. So if you're getting that clicking noise, it's probably your drive shaft. Definitely seeing some cold rocks with dust on it and poor tires coming into effect here. I usually get more drive than this. Now that's one thing we need to address, is tires in this video. I'm not pulling any punches here. I don't think Axial has ever made a good tire, guys. Name me one tire where you prefer Axial's tire over other brands and compounds. They look great. They do a great job with licensed scale tires. They perform okay, but there's never been an RTR tire from Axial where I'm like, yes, this is the choice. And it's almost become like a default, like, oh yeah, I get a new car, I'm gonna put wheels and tires on it. Vanquish at least puts their aftermarket compound on them. Their compound doesn't specifically work perfect in my environment, but I've heard of other people who really, really like it. Obviously, that's going to be dependent on the rocks you're on. Okay, now we're up to where we need our fronts to be. These aren't bad. They're also not great. So we're going to give her just a little nudge. Okay, just needed that little extra. This is my new bonus buggy line into this trail. It's not completely new. I've driven this with a few trucks, but this crossover can get tricky for sure. Come on. Bush is trying to flip us over backwards. Ah! Big belly coming through here. Very possible this thing's about to roll over backwards. Weight transfer to the front. Come on. Nice. Very predictable there. That's what I was hoping I'd see. Yeah, we don't really need to get the rear up through here. We can just crab walk it through, and then we'll climb it when we want. This is a pretty exposed drop. Handled it no problem. If you guys are curious, if you've seen other video reviews as to why you're limited on your pinion choices, 14 and 18 with the motor plate that comes out of the car, that's because the gear mesh is blind in this transmission. So you have to have a keyed pinion and spur mesh. So you can get aftermarket plates available from Axial so that you can run different gear ratios. But out of the box, that's why you get that, is because out of the box they put a 14 tooth in there. You can't see to set the mesh, and so that's how they had to design that. There we go. Sweet. It made it through the harder entrance on the way to Mousetrap. This thing is definitely kicking some ass for a few light upgrades. Still not having fantastic tires. It's able to put down some solid lines here. There's a very specific thing I want to try through this line. It used to be I thought you had to have dig to make it through this obstacle. It was right when the Capra first came out, and I had a Capra, and then there's this little crack that our front driver tire is about to go across. And as the rear travels through there, it tries to really dip the rear through the hole. So I'll try and run this drag axle. This car might be wide enough that it won't be an issue. But just for example's sake, what I wanted to try was to set up our ASD feature and drag this tire across that gap. I wanted to drag that tire across the gap so it didn't roll down to the bottom, it just get pulled straight across. And that's essentially how I used to treat the dig function coming through there. I think Sydney's got something in her paw. We'll go check on her in just a second. And there you go. The Gilamon making quick work of the Mousetrap crack. Really not even using rear steer all that much. Let's try ASD right here. There we go. Had to just touch reverse to take the bind out of the drivetrain. Maybe my end point isn't set as good as it should be right there. Yeah, it kind of started to engage for a second. That's on me and my end points. I put a new controller on the truck. I will say the controller that I got, the end points were set pretty well to where it always locked. So that's a good sign. Let's get the rear kicked over. And there it is, not too bad. All right, now I made a poor choice in my electronics in this car as far as the ESC not really being rated for this heavy of a car. So we could overheat some stuff, but let's torture test it anyway. Let's see if I can shoot this wall on 3S with the 1950 Revolver Classic. Might not have the traction to do it either, so let's find out. Very stable shot on that, really. Trying to get that front suspension compressed. So then let's try this one more time. Full throttle. Pretty solid hit there. Rolled a lot of trucks off that. Bummer. Not getting the traction we need today. Not quite enough wheel speed. It might do it. I'm not really seeing it, so I'm going to call it quits there. All right, guys, my controller is beeping at me. It's all mad that it's low on battery. So here we go. Gonna try and see if we're able to drive this in a like decent line. So most cars I drive through here are narrower. Typically a wide car is bad, but this one might be so wide that it runs a new line. So far it's looking really good. It's just going up to the next ledge basically. Very nice. I gotta use a little rear steer here. Just gonna drag that rear through. Nice, nothing too aggressive on the rear steer, just a little bit of something because I can, and looked really good. Again, this is an option part from Axial. You can get that front axle assembly. It doesn't come with the ASD installed, but with your factory rear axle, it has the ASD in that, so you can swap it in there. Or if you don't like rear steer, you can put the ASD from the rear into the front if you choose. I think it's gonna be more effective in the rear, so that's the way I would leave it. If you're sticking with the drag axle, it's gonna help you pivot around better. Very, very cool. That was Mousetrap, not too bad. I'm gonna go grab some batteries for my controller. All right, Gilamon, Axial's claim to you're gonna need harder lines. I've never seen this line driven before. Never really tried that much, but I got it to get up and stick just a minute ago. Let's see if we can get it on camera. Got to keep those tires just enough off the wall that they don't climb and flip it. Okay, there's our start. And we got to get the rear up. And we're going to try and pinch that front in there. Our rear is going to end up ledged right as the front is, so let's dip the front in then. We got our torque from our revolver. Might be pissing off the ESC. So far on 3S it's happy. I drove it on 4S for like a minute yesterday and it did not like it. It overheated the ESC very quickly. Just in my backyard it did. It was not having it. Oh man, this is close. Some good tires could really make the difference here. Searching for traction. We're almost over this little hump. Nope, I'm not liking that. Slipping off the wall. Let's dump our, well, it's not gonna let our front left down, but very, very good attempt. I'm definitely coming back with good tires. Good stuff, Gilamon. For anybody local who's curious what area I'm talking about that I just tried, it's right below this. It's just right where you stand to run this line. A little off camber section that points you down into a crack. It's pretty cool. So here we go. I would love front dig on this thing right now. So is there a way ASD could help us here? Let's try locking the left rear. Okay, our ASD did not engage. Now we're going the wrong way. That did not work out. And then our suspension gets angry when we try and put the front left back in. Come on. 1100. Making real angry noises. Not really angry noises, but 1100 doesn't care, man. It just forces those tires to turn where you want them. Absolutely one of my favorite servos. We'll see if the 1400 can claim a new favorite, but without experience with the Reefs 1400, I still love my 1100s. We're working our way over to one of our absolute hardest lines that I've ever driven with an RC car. This thing has everything going for it to be able to do that line because width and big tires are a plus. This is wider than any other car I have, and I was not running 5.5 inch tall tires when I did it. Nice little force bind there to put the traction down. I've got a little saying, where there's a bind, there's traction. And sometimes you need to remember, if you can get it bound up in a line where you're missing out on traction, you can get traction. Whether it'll work or not, that's a different story. But if you can get it in a bind, there's traction. Come on. Just stuck on her belly. This thing does have a big belly. Not so much of a climb there, it's just sliding along the edge, but I'll take it. This line has always been extremely difficult, and it doesn't look like it would be that bad. Here we go, let's switch our view here. You essentially got two overhangs into a V wedge. Getting your fronts up is usually not the problem. It's getting the rear through. And even with big tires, it doesn't like it. Now my buddy Tyson helped me figure this out. I showed him the line. Oh, too much overdrive. Fronts got pushed off the ledge before the rears were in position. It's definitely an overdrive thing. Sydney loves to walk right in front of the camera. Okay. I need a way to hold that front left in while this right rear tries to climb for this line I'm attempting now. Not there, it's not gonna work. See how that front end just falls off the top of the ledge? That's because I've got way too much overdrive and the fronts outrun the rear in reverse. It can make your suspension do all sorts of wacky stuff. It makes your car handle very strange. So if you guys aren't used to that, I don't recommend running a ton of overdrive. I at least know to anticipate it. Doesn't mean I'm good with it, but I know it's coming. Here's the actual line. Sick. Pretty much monster truck that once you put it on the correct line. And even on the correct line with my smaller cars, they don't just walk that. It's still work. You gotta finesse and balance it. There we go. All right, I totally forgot to mention this in my original video. And if you guys follow my Instagram, you probably saw me do something like this in my real buggy. So here we go. Not quite as dramatic as that.
Oh! 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 Woo! Woo! What a save!
But if you saw me drop off that steep ledge in my real buggy, and then the rear rotates around and falls way down off the rocks, that was filmed by the Axial videographer because my buggy was featured in the promo for this RC car, and I was out here driving for Axial. But that was in no way related to the actual filming of the release. That was not a planned shot. I was moving my car around and showing off a little bit, told the videographer to record it, and man, I'm glad I did, because that was a super sketchy, close call. Almost rolling my buggy really hard, got myself into a bad spot, and it was literally just me showing off, being an idiot. So thank you very much, Robert. I appreciate you getting some killer footage of that. And yeah, if you guys saw it on my Instagram, that was filmed during the time that I was out with Axial recording some promo footage for the Gilamon. Pretty funny. This crack always puts up a fight. I'm always interested to see how cars handle this. I've never driven anything this size through here. It's kind of a repeated theme today, I suppose. I'll quit saying that. Just know this is one of the biggest crawlers I have, and so when I put it in something, I'm learning because I haven't done it in a rig this wide and long. Which is a fun aspect of this car. This is different. Like, it's not just another Capra, it's not another tent scale. The lines actually are different. Sydney's getting impatient with the trail traffic. So if you've been driving tent scale a long time and like you're getting to the point where everything kind of just starts to feel similar, you can look at a line and know if it's possible or not. This is a good, like, breath of fresh air for the RC crawling. Like, it's just something different. So for that aspect alone, I'd definitely say it's worth checking into. Sick. Worked its way down. This is a dead end, so we gotta flip our way around here. So let's try our ASD. Yeah, I'd say that the ASD is super functional in that aspect. Check that out. Still locked. Nice. That was beautiful. It pivoted around that rear tire. It just spun on its axis. That was cool. Ooh. There we go. Got Mario'd just a little bit. The full-size crawlers. When you get that wiggle and shuffle down on a climb like that, it's called getting Mario'd. And there's an obstacle out in Sand Hollow called the Mario Bowl, because every time you try and climb it, it shuffles like that and spits you out. And you get Mario'd over and over again. Good work here. You know, it just depends on exactly what you're doing, whether these tires are good or bad. I mean, you force them through a V-wedge, they don't do bad. Do you need more screen time? Do you need to say hi to all your fans? This is your YouTube channel. I know that. I just maintain it for you. Okay, go on. Go and get. Wrong way. Where are you going? Freaking dog, man. So we just got to get through this last pinch. Those rears barely fit under there. With the bigger tires and more aggressive tread, that's going to get interesting. So that is one of the last things I want to change on this car, is going to a larger tire. The factory tires are 5.5. I want to go to 5.75. I guess just because I'm a big tire guy. Man, you were all up in my grill today. What is the deal? Damn, dog. She actually believes this is her YouTube channel. I've been telling her too much. Well, this rock is in our way. We need to adjust some things. So the Proline Super Swamper TSL is a really cool tire. I like them in 1.9. I've had a set of 5.4 tall tires, but I've seen them compared to these factory tires and they are noticeably smaller. So I had ordered the 5.75s before I had seen the 5.4s on the Gilamon. And after seeing them on the Gilamon, I'm really glad that I went 5.75. So anybody who doesn't know, this is my line called Catorce, which is 14 in Spanish for all you scholars out there. By the way, I forgot that shit too. This line is one of my absolute hardest spots that I've ever crawled. And I've pulled it off a couple times. Like I mentioned earlier, width, I want to use ASD right here. Width and big tires help out right here. Okay, we're ready for four-wheel drive again. There it is. You can hear the spring release ASD, it clicks. So give it just that little reverse nudge so that you know that it has returned back to four-wheel. We can go ahead and drop that rear end a little more. Okay, this is a very challenging spot, getting through that first drop. The hardest part is navigating the T in the crack. You gotta get that rear up. There we are, we're balanced again. Okay, we gotta get the front to span that gap without falling in the hole. Which means you gotta dump the front driver dangerously far in to span the gap. This car is so much wider, this is gonna be hopefully a lot easier. Sick, sick. She floated it. Okay, worked our way through phase 1 of extremely difficult. Now we got to get the rear through, which is phase 2 of extremely difficult. Come on, car. Can we span the rear across? I don't think I've ever successfully spanned the rear. This is so touchy. Little things try and make the car fall. This is also my first attempt on camera. First attempt ever with the Gilamon. My ESC is not going to like this. Check out the tire folding over. And then the top of the tread there. Let's try and use our toolbox a little. So what I did there, I used ASD to stop rotating this tire, because if it rotates forward, it's going to try and pull the car backward and create more bind. I locked it just to try and slide it through, and it also let this tire rotate to get on top of this ledge instead. That worked out pretty well. I'm not mad at that. There we go. I heard that spring engage. Now we're going to use our rear steer to get it back balanced again. And guys, we just one-shot Catorce. As far as Axial saying you're going to need harder lines, that one in particular, it is an advantage to have a wide car with tall tires, which is exactly what this thing is. It's wider and bigger tires than I'm used to. And man, it made that look easy. I don't know about easy, but it did it easily. I mean, I just one-shot it. My ESC is a little overheated now. She is not liking being that bound up. When it gets hot like that, it has that weird surge like we're seeing. Let's see, let's lock our ASD. And then it'll help us pivot around. Get into that metal door panel. Okay, now we need our four-wheel drive back. Okay, the rear tire dips under right there. Super cool. That thing just did Catorce. I've only done that with a few cars. This is one of 4, I think now. Very impressive. All right, here we go. Gonna run some more lines through Cold Cuts. Sorry, I almost forgot the name of this one real quick. My bad, Braxton. I know it's Cold Cuts. Oh yeah, look at that wheelbase, able to get that ledge up top. Let's work it just a little left. She should pull it up. Left rear is gonna come over the top. So close. This is all tire. I know the tires. I know good tires will pull this up. Get up there. Crawl it. Come on. We're a little faster than crawling now. All right. Reasonable. And that's what we expect of these tires. They're reasonable. They're not great. This will be interesting. Can we crawl it? I've only seen like 1 or 2 trucks ever crawl this. This thing is very stable on the steep stuff. I'll give it credit. Even with the shocks fully unloaded in the front, which there are remedies for. It comes equipped for a servo winch and a suck down winch mount on the front axle. A more effective way would be the D's shock bands. I already talked to Dustin at D's. We got some in the works for it. Hopefully hold the nose down on this big guy. Yep. Not gonna get our pull there. Not aggressive enough of a sidewall. There it is. So let's give her a little room and just get a bump up the ledge. I did let the car cool off for a minute. It was working hard in that last crack. Very, very happy with the 3S in this car though. 4S is not rated for that and it doesn't work. 3S works with this motor and ESC combo. Woo! Oh, it barely held on to that one. Come on, forward weight bias, win. Survive. There we go. Now let's get... The big belly got to slide through. The rear steer makes this so much easier. And I don't feel as guilty on this car having it be rear steer because it's an option from Axial. I don't know if anybody's mentioned this. There are big steel tubes that reinforce the axle housing on these. A little bit of inside baseball. They did prototype some brass inserts. They weighed the same. Steel's better for threading into. So that's why it's steel and not brass. It weighs the same. I'm pretty confident steel's stronger, so. This one can be a little tricky sometimes. Bobbing and weaving our way through. Nice, not very nice. This one is causing me serious issues with the VRDs. Always the VRD. Counteracted it with the rear steer. Up and out she goes, the cold cuts. Quick works on that one. I tried to crawl it. It's usually a bumping line, and this car needed a bump. Well, if you guys have made it this far, I appreciate it. This video is already longer than I normally do, but I'm having fun. It's a beautiful day. Sydney's happy to be out of the house. It's a new truck. We're gonna keep on crawling. I got more lines in the store for you guys. Right now, we're gonna go back to some of the original videos lines, see how the upgrades compare to the original truck. I'll let you know where it does and doesn't work. Let's go hit the lines. So first off, these rocks have also just warmed up and dried out compared to 3 days ago when I went out and filmed that original video. It's been really nice weather down here, so fortunately, we just have more raw traction to start with. So the upgrades are certainly going to make an improvement in performance. Okay, let's just use our ASD here. With the rear steer, I find myself using that less, but there are situations where ASD does things that rear steer can't. Fortunately, now we have both. We got both in the toolbox. So I'm gonna try and do this without rear steer. I mentioned in the original video, if the rocks were dry, I thought it would have the traction to do it. Now, one little caveat there is that I also have a bunch of brass in the front of this thing now too. So that will certainly make a difference of the front end trying to drag the rear up. And there it is. I told you it could do it. But obviously, yes, I did add brass to it. I screwed that up. I tried to use no rear steer, and all it really needed was a little bit of rear steer to save itself. But we never saw the car get that high originally, so we don't know if we could do that drag axle anyway. One more to confirm it, I suppose. Ooh, a little ASD to, no, that's not working. Okay, well, we dragged the rear up, so that's all I can say. Once we got the rear up, the rest of it was an unknown, but she did it. So whether that's the brass or the dry rocks, I don't know, it pulled it off. All right, this car originally did this line, but it took some work. Not surprised at all, that brass weight really showed its head right there. Really showed why you want brass in the front. Okay, here we go. Originally, took a lot of effort and bumps to get this thing up here. A big part of that was I was just on the wrong line, because I typically put the belly of the car in the V crack, and there's not enough room on top of the ledge for this length of a car. So it ended up I had to be over left of where I usually go, which is right here. I can hear those tires trying to do it. There it is, nice. Sweet. Again, there was wet sand at the bottom of that climb when I originally tried as well, so that'll make a big difference. It just had more drive from the rear, but it also had more weight in the front. It also has more overdrive. Axial really did a good job with the upgrades available for this car. It's what you want to increase performance. A little bit of forward weight. The overdrive really is optional. 30% is plenty for this truck. I was presented with the opportunity to try it, so I said sure. So this thing should be running around 40% overdrive, which is a lot. Typically, I don't go that aggressive on my buggies. It's not gonna get that hook in the front driver. Ooh, and it pulls it, nice. I thought I was gonna slip off. Very, very interesting. Okay. Not bad at all. So as you guys see, these tires are not utter garbage. They will do things. I think there are better, but I know other channels were like, oh, these tires are pure trash. I'm like, depending on your rocks, sure, they could be. They're okay. You could drive it on the stock tires and still have fun. I am. Am I also going to swap them? You betcha. All right, this line always just looks crazy. Let's give her a go. Are you guys bothered that I'm not using ASD as much with the rear steer, or you just find it interesting that I don't need to anymore with the rear steer? Since the rear axle already comes with ASD, I still recommend installing it. There will be times where you probably want it, but I think you'll find that it's a little more rare. This line is possible with tent scales. This car's too big. It's a hard line. Having extra wheelbase would help. Maybe this is a better approach for it. I don't know. Oh, get up there, get up there. Get up there. That was so sketchy. It about rolled off. Okay, where's our front at? Need to make sure we secure the hook. We should be good at this point. Oh, buddy, check that out. How sick is that? Like I said, this line's possible. I've done it before. Get up there. Nice. That was cool. Barely got the entrance to that one. Man, I've pretty well said everything I want to say about the car today. It's been a blast. These upgrades are awesome. They're worth checking out. It's a very heavy brass portal and knuckle setup, so like, I really don't see how aftermarket could legitimately improve it. Obviously you can do one or the other if you don't want that much weight, but like, these are heavy. If you want a solid amount of weight in the front, it's a good option already available. Like, I do consider making parts for RCs on occasion, and like, brass knuckles for this is not one that I would care to try and do. I'm pretty confident Axial keeps up with demand pretty well. I mean, they've got Horizon backing them, so I don't think being able to keep up with demand of their own product should be an issue. Sick. Yeah, she's really not gonna climb through that pocket, so. Nice. Let's use our ASD. It is helpful. I just watch the servo where it goes. I still haven't programmed in my mind which way to go.
Oh, that rear's not doing us any favors at this point. Yeah, we should go back to four-wheel drive. Killer. Popped right out of that one. Not too bad. One upgrade I saw on the Axial website that I don't have is the metal upper link mount for a front axle. Obviously that applies to both my axles now. And it's this little like U-shaped bar that mounts to the axle housing. They make that in metal if you're interested in that. One day you'll probably see some on my car. I also need to send a thank you to Axial for sending this Gilamon my way. It's been fun to go out with the guys and help them do some test and tune. I don't want to make it sound like more than it is. I did not like design anything. I didn't even make the choices of which things to test. They would just hand me a car. They're like, this one has this one has this. What are your opinions on which one does better? And pretty well, we would all agree on most things. Like, yeah, that was good, that was bad. Or it makes almost no difference. You might be surprised at how often that was the answer of like, yeah, it kind of is the same. This car is very wide, which makes this climb very steep. I haven't seen it done with this. I've only driven this thing like twice here. Man, that was close. Maybe no front right. Yeah, that's our best approach yet. We just need to get buggy with it. Slide the rears through. Tip it onto the roof and then try and recover it. Okay, let's use our ASD. Told you, I just look at the servo. It's essentially giving us a dig. It's kind of spitting us back out more than it's helping us. This is a true benefit of an electric car. With a gas engine, obviously, would be running out of oil pressure. They don't run forever on their side. I've seen them go a long time, but not forever. I just don't have the room in here to get it upright. Trying to do buggy things. Woo! That was some binding. Did we get it though? Come on. Come on. Yeah. All right. Still not quite where I need it to be. Still on the roof. Still bound up. There it is. That was a nasty bind there, guys. A lot of people are saying this drivetrain looks weak. I don't know how they're saying that when they've never seen one to this point. We will find out if it is though, right? Like, we get in enough people's hands, they're gonna find the flaws. I don't claim this truck is perfect. It's also not even my product, but like, let's find out if it is tough before we say it isn't tough. You know what I'm saying? Is she gonna front flip off this? This is a big drop, but it's got the wheelbase. She's gonna plant it. No problem. Bam. Okay. Wow, I picked the wrong way almost every time on the ASD. Settle the rear down. Although the driving tire on the rear was the one in the air, so it wasn't hurting us. All I really needed was the rear locked. So doing that didn't hurt us at all. Here we go. Now let's try, hey, I got it the right way this time. Forward weight, holding the nose down. And then weight transferred to the rear. So I did learn how the ASD functions a little more than my first video, where I mentioned having a stronger servo would be able to rip it out of the bind that it's in. It's actually a spring that returns it back to four-wheel drive. So the servo strength is irrelevant. The servo strength just puts it into gear, or into lock. So having a stronger servo is not going to force it to engage better. That's the way this thing is designed. Not a bad reverse pull there. Still enough weight in the rear that it has demand over the car when it needs to. Okay, I want to lock that rear and pull the front around. Yeah, that's what I wanted. I want that rear up there. That's what I needed. Okay, throttle out. Not too bad. That was pretty controlled. I've tried that with many trucks and wadded them up at the bottom, and this guy pulled it off. Sick. All right, guys, this is probably going to be our final series of obstacles. My GoPro battery is getting low, which means I've recorded a ton out here today. I hope you guys have enjoyed the content. But I also fully understand if you're like, God, I'm sick of listening to this guy talk. Some of the longer YouTube content, by the end of it, that's how I feel. So I totally get it. This is going to be a big belly to get around this corner. Yep, I want to get that inside sidewall under that ledge, which means we need to work the rear all the way up and around and not let that front end carry us too high. But look at the way that rear tire is all wrinkled up. 888 still has power. Let's try reverse. Yeah, it's too slippery in here to really get that any higher positioned. I don't think this car is going to get this one. Yeah, it just slides that rear tire in there. So, not getting through there. We don't need to waste 15 minutes of trying because I don't see it. It's too wide, it can't get in position to get the belly high enough to be able to pivot around the slider, basically. I've got a few videos showing how that works. If you want to see the most recent example, my Deluxe Capra drives new lines, I think is the name of it. It's the more recent of my Deluxe Capra videos as of posting this. Here we go, super steep climb. I love the way this obstacle works because you get to lock that front driver sidewall in and it just pulls the car up and it doesn't allow it to flip over backwards, usually. Using our rear to really push off that ledge in the bottom. Sometimes you got to listen to the car. Right there, I was trying to keep the driver front in the wall, and every time I turn away from the wall, it started going forward, and then I'd turn back into the wall, and it would start spitting it out again. It's not the way I wanted to run it. I wanted to keep that driver sidewall in there, but I realized, like, hey, the car's telling me this isn't the way it wants to do this. And that's one of the hard things for me to overcome sometimes, is you really just got to listen to what the car wants. It's getting very steep in here. more of the width excuse and not experiencing anything in here like it. Okay, we're getting close now. Gotta sneak the front through. Should have good push in the rear. Love the crawling speed control with the Holmes V3. Oh, our front wheel's gonna hurt us here. There it is, that's what I needed. That is one cool thing you can do with RCs and not with the full size, is get that servo wiggle. It'd be so beneficial in the full size to move that fast. Come on. Oh, come on. Oh, not liking that. Do I need to drive this balanced? I don't know. Am I gonna try? Hell yeah. Where there's a bind, there's traction. Not enough. We're literally there. I just need to get the rear out. Have it your way, crack. Up and out. Axial Gilamon with the Axial upgrades. I can confidently say this car is better with the upgrades. Very impressed by the lines we pulled today. Its sheer size and tire height really makes a big difference. This thing is a fun buggy. If you guys are looking for one, excellent buy. I didn't say to buy the car in my original review. I think if you like buggies, if you watch this whole thing, you should be interested in this. I really think that you would have a good time driving it. So, I have affiliate links down below. If you decide to pick one up, if you bought it through my affiliate link, it would help me out and I would appreciate it. If you have a different review that really sold you on the car, use that person's affiliate link if they have one. It does help support your content creator, guys. You know, I do come out here, I spend the time, spend the fuel, I spend the time editing, which almost nobody likes. I actually do, that's why I make videos. But yeah, support the guys who are helping you out and making your buying decisions. Yes, Axial sent this to me. I waited till the end of an hour video to tell you that I think you should buy one if you're interested in it. I'm not telling everybody to go buy one because not everybody's interested in a buggy, and you know, it is what it is. So thank you for watching. I really appreciate you making it all the way to the end of this. We will see you guys in the next one. As Sydney says, keep the rubber side down.